Okay, hey Algebra 2 honor students. This is our third day of factoring. So today your two concept videos, you're going to do a video on guess and check, which is this first one. It's guess and check. And another way to say what it is it's when we have a trinomial, like below. Trinomial, remember, means three terms. So term 1, term 2, and term 3, right? Or pieces. And it's when you have three terms, but it's not like the ones that you're used to from like middle school, where you have a 1 as a coefficient of your x squared, right? Remember, the general form looks like this. So we say that when a is 1, that's like the nice form. When a is not 1, that's when it gets a little trickier. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. In the second video, you're going to look at factoring when there's cubes and cubic ideas. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to look at one of these. Now, the first thing I might do, right, if I'm factoring, I would first notice, okay, I'm seeing a 3, but remember our last video and our last factoring day, we focused on GCFs. So I might say, ooh, could it be a GCF of 3? And I see a 3 and a 12, which is looking promising, but the 20 kind of screws that up. So you always want to check for a GCF first. So like on my list, if I have a trinomial, right, I'm first looking for a GCF. That's always the easiest thing to accomplish. If that is not the case, you're going to have to do guess and check. Guess and check. So the way that guess and check works is we know that if it's 3x squared, it's going to be 3x and x, right? If you're thinking about it in terms of area model instead, it's going to kind of look like this. And we know that there's a 12, right? So the hard thing with this is it's not just what multiplies to be 12, but what adds to be negative 20. And the reason why is because this 3 is going to kind of mess it up. Notice whichever number is here, right? When I do my multiplication, it's going to be 3x times that. So whatever number is here is going to be tripled. So the big idea is that I'm going to think about factors of 12. I'm just listing them out. But I have to keep in mind that one of my numbers is going to be tripled. And then you ask yourself if it multiplies to be 12 and adds to be negative 20. So we're looking for one where one number triples. And then you have it where they add to be negative 20. Okay, so I'm looking for numbers that I could triple. Let's see, 12 and 1, that's probably the least likely. If I triple 12, that's way too big, right? If I triple 1, I'm going to have a 3 and a 12, and that can't get me to a 20. If I look at this pair, if I triple the 6, I would have 2, and tripling 6 is 18. And that actually gives me a 20. That would be nice. Notice I could have also tripled the 2. If I tripled the 2, I would get a 6 and a 6. And those don't combine to be 20. They combine to be 12. Same kind of thing. You could have tried this, right? The bottom pair. That would have given you a 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 and 4 does not make 20. So it looks like this is our pair. So the one that gets tripled is the 6. So the 6 is going to go here, because notice that will make the 18. Right? The 18x's. And then the 2 is going to go over here. And notice, because I need it to be a negative 20, they actually both have to be negative numbers. So that becomes negative 18x, and this becomes negative 2x, and that is what yields me the 20. So you want to be careful. A lot of people flip-flop where they put the numbers, right? Keeping in mind that this is going to create that negative 18x. So the term or the number that is not with the 3 is the one that gets tripled. Let's try another one just for practice, right? We kind of have to play around and think about what the right combination is. So this one, I'm seeing 8x squared. That means I could have a couple of different things. I might have 2x and 4x, right? 2 times 4 is 8. I might have 1x and 8x. This one is generally more likely. It's not as typical to have 1 and 8, but it's possible. We know we need to have a negative 21, and that doesn't have too many factors, which is nice. So I'm just listing a couple that I can think of. So this one's a little harder because there are multiple possibilities for what we could put as our first number. But we're thinking it's probably more likely to be the top choice. So I'm going to kind of ignore this one for now. I'm going to focus on that option. And I can fill it in an area model if that helps me as well. So I'm going to focus on thinking about it like 4x and 2x with my negative 21. So I need to think about one of my numbers is going to be multiplied by 4, right? Whatever number is here is going to be multiplied by 4. And then one of them is going to be multiplied by 2. So we're going to take the numbers. And 1 is times a 4. And 1 gets times by 2. So let's think through. Okay. If I'm looking at my numbers, I need to get to a 22, right? And that means that I can't do something crazy. Like if I'm doing a number times 4 and a number times 2, this one kind of seems way too big, right? 21 times 2 would be in the 40s, and that's way too big. 21 times 4 is also way too big. So I'm going to focus on my 7 and my 3. So you'll notice that as you do this, right, we're able to eliminate what is probably less likely, and that kind of helps us with our guess and check. So let's see. 1 times 4 and 1 times 2. What if I don't want the numbers to get too big. What if I do this 1 times 4 because it's the smaller number, and this 1 times 2 because it's a little bit bigger? That would give me negative 14 and 12. Okay, and that's not going to give me the correct answer. Added, that gives me negative 2. What if I flip-flop and put the 4 times the negative 7 and the 2 times the 3? And remember, I chose a negative 7 and a 3. It could have been a negative 3 and a 7 to get a negative 21, right? That gives me negative 28, and then 2 and 3 make 6. Those do combine to be negative 22. So the number that needs to get multiplied by the 4, that's looking like my negative 7, right? That would create negative 28x. And the number that is going to be multiplied by 2 is the 3, so plus 3. And then that would give me my 6x. So I'll write it out. So it's going to be 4x plus 3, and then 2x minus 7. And remember, when we're doing this, it is guess and check, right? It does take some trial and error. Notice this one is a bit harder than the first one, right? The first one, you knew it was 3x and 1x, and the only thing we had to contend with was the 12. This one was harder because we had to multiply 2 different numbers. And on top of all of that, we had the difficulty of not knowing if it was 2x and 4x or 1x and 8x. But remember, you are able to kind of eliminate the less likely options and start with what's most likely. Okay, let's try a couple more. This next one is also a trinomial, right? As I'm thinking about like factoring strategies, I first always double check for a greatest common factor, right? Just kind of keeping you guys thinking like that. But a 15 does not work with the 4s. So this one I'm thinking, okay, it's either going to be 4x and 1x or 2x and 2x. And a negative 15 has possibilities of 1 and 15. I'll just make one of them negative 3 and 5. Right? 1 and 15 is probably less likely, so it's probably more likely to be one of these two guys. So sometimes I prefer to use area model. I know some of you guys prefer to use FOIL, so I'm going to kind of use the FOIL structure this time in my guess and check. So if I need something to combine to be a negative 4, that means they can't be super huge compared to each other, right? So I'm going to start with these guys. I'm also going to start with the 2s because I'm thinking if I do something times a 4, it's going to get too big. So let's start with this and see if we can get it correct. If I put a 3 and a 5, right, I'm going to make one of them positive, one negative. That would make 6x. This would make negative 10x. Nice. And so what happened is I got the right amount of x's because negative 10x and 6x makes negative 4. If I had guessed wrong, like let's say I had done different signs. Let's say I did this. That would give me negative 6x and positive 10x. So that would tell me I had the right numbers, but notice this creates a positive 4x instead of a negative 4. So that's why I would kind of realize, ooh, I need to switch my signs, right? And remember, we didn't do the 1 in 15 because I didn't want to take one of those numbers and do it times 4 or times 2, right? 15 is way too big to have it give me a difference that's only 4. So I normally start not with the 4 in the 1 case, I start with the most likely case like this. And you can leave like a little reminder how we were verifying that it got us negative 4x. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do another quick practice. And don't worry if these are hard at first. These take a lot of practice. It took me a long time as a student to feel like I could do them efficiently. So this is something that just takes some practice with knowing your multiplication, knowing your divisibility, right? It kind of takes some practice to get used to. I'm seeing a 6x squared. That means I could either be a 1x and a 6x, or a 2x and a 3x. Which one is most likely to be true? Probably not that one, so I'm going to start with the bottom one. I've got a 15. And thinking through my factor pairs of 15, I've got 1 and 15, I've got 3 and 5. Noticing that I need to combine in some way to get a negative 19, I'm going to make them all negative. And remember, I'm saying combine in some way to be a negative 19 because I'm going to be doing doubling and tripling. So let's try, I'm assuming this is probably more likely. Let's try the negative 3 and negative 5. So I'm going to put negative 5 here, negative 3 here. And let's double check if that works. Negative 15x, and that pair is going to give me negative 6x. And that gives me negative 21x, so not quite right. What happens if I flip them? Let's try this negative 5, and this one be negative 3. When I do my foiling, that's going to be a negative 9x. This is going to be a negative 10x, and those do combine correctly, so this is my final answer. Like I said before, don't worry if it takes a little bit of time to get used to. Right? This is a tricky concept, so it takes a lot of trial and error to feel comfortable and start to get the hang of it. Okay, in the next video, you guys will look at cubes and factoring with cubes.